time.
Well, that's where homestead comes in. People want to get off the grid. I'd love to get off the grid.
I want to get off the grid.
A big scare that's going around now though with a lot of people is buying up farmland for what it's what the information centers.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. Let's call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Ben,
Present.
Sam,
Here.
Bob, Devin,
Present.
Gloria, here, Lila. Excused.
How did Lila get on board?
It's a great question.
Present.
Because I wasn't made aware that she got voted on.
Yeah, I wasn't either. I didn't see it at township meetings or nothing.
Yeah,
Tuesday
Tuesday it happened.
Tuesday it happened?
Yep.
Yeah.
She resigned from the zoning board of appeals and got on this.
She resigned from the parks too?
No,
Yeah, we'll address that late at the next regular meeting.
What page are we starting on this?
55.
Yep, 55.
All right.
So, first, just to address the Lila thing, yes, she was appointed at the last board meeting. This meeting wasn't scheduled yet at that point, so.
But I still should have been made aware that she is
If I should have
appointed.
notified you, I'm sorry.
This meeting has been scheduled. It was scheduled
It
last.
wasn't,
No.
the official paperwork was not out.
Even
We
though-
keep talking about having the third, but it was not officially scheduled at the time. However, that does not change the fact
I
that
would have thought
whether it
somebody
was
would
you
notify
or
maybe I should have.
whoever was appointed the chairman of the board at that point in time should have.
That was me that night.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Okay.
no, just the moderator of the meeting.
Right, the
It's
moderator.
talking about it for a few months though.
yeah,
Just finally
she's been
came
waiting,
about.
yeah, but she was waiting for the last zoning board of appeals
Oh,
meeting,
okay. That
is what
makes
she
sense.
had to wait, and then,
Irrelevantly to all that, I apologize to Lila as well. I did not notify you. It didn't even cross my mind because she's real at the time. I would have thought somebody told her. And I would have thought somebody would have told you when you told them about this meeting. So,
Yeah, I was not notified
I had my
otherwise.
own things going on, I didn't do it, and that's my fault. I'm sorry.
Well, your family's had a lot going on too, so
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Right now. Always.
I'll make sure, you now know, and I'll make sure she knows when the next one is, which this is the oddball one, so.
I'm gonna call your dad, but he won't see me.
He doesn't answer me either. All right, so starting on 55, anybody with any notes on here? Like, so keep in mind, a lot of this is stuff,
Did we leave off in the middle though?
yeah,
yeah, the single
Right at
family
B.
detached,
Single family.
So start on 55, oh, 55.
Yeah.
I'm on the wrong page now, I'm on 56. I see now. I wrote start here,
yeah.
but it was up here.
Yeah, so in the family, single family detached condominium stuff, that is your subdivision stuff, that is
Yeah.
mostly controlled by the state. This is just setting up the review process for here. So anybody with anything on page 55 specifically? All right, anything on page 56? That takes us up through the beginning of the drive-through regulations. It's still mostly the single family detached condominium stuff. If nothing on page 56, then we'll move to page 57. This is all of the stuff for your drive-throughs. This was basically based on what the row person said was established other places specifically for drive-throughs, which, I mean, we'll basically have to go with what they say on that, because I don't know that we would have unless we wanted to do traffic studies to see what was needed. I think this is probably our best. And I know from looking at the Saginaw zoning ordinance, it pretty much lines up with what they're doing as well, with the 15-foot width for the drive-through lanes, striped and marked, and landscaping and all of that is very similar. Okay, anything on 57? Ben, did you say something?
Drive-through lanes here, what are they talking about now? I mean,
They're talking
not-
like-
They're talking only for single family still.
No, this
It's
is
switching
the
over
drive.
to business drive-through.
This is
like a
a
restaurant.
business drive-through. This is like the McDonald's
So-
drive-through window.
I just don't understand then starting on the page before, but blowing over the waiting lanes. Any drive-through facility shall include an off-street waiting space for a minimum width of 10 feet and a minimum length of 20 feet, and shall not include the use of the public place street. So I get all that. How do you know? And I use fast food restaurants as my example. You go to Tim Hortons in Davison, and if they got 7 people, you're backed out to M15 and traffic is blocked on a busy Sunday morning. I don't understand how to know how many spaces there's gonna be.
They're basing it off of the use. Now, I know based off of the use, like that isn't always a great thing, or a great way to measure it, because if you've ever been near a Chick-fil-A when it opened, you've got traffic a mile down the road trying to get in there, so,
Never
but
been
once,
there, but Tim Hortons does that example, is that morning time,
well,
guys going to
that
work,
one's
people
more,
going to
that
work.
one's more
It hits them every
consistent.
morning.
But
So
I'm talking-
one morning it'll be no problem, there's not a car in drive-through, that we will drive right up to the microphone. Tomorrow, same exact time, M15's blocked.
So when Roe talked about this was based off of general design standards. So like, unless we could get into figuring out what those design standards are, and we'd have to have probably an engineer that handles this kind of stuff to give us some more input on it. Otherwise, this is like basically the cut and paste that everybody uses.
just wanna make
I
sure
understand,
there's
I
enough
understand that, yeah, and we could do that in the review process of like, well, what's the business, like, Chick-fil-A is a perfect example, because if we were to get any type of new business out here, right, that had a drive-through restaurant like that, like, for the first 6 months, the traffic pattern's not gonna be normal. It's gonna be excessive, it's gonna probably cause traffic problems. I mean, like I said, the one in Saginaw, the week that they were open, every time right around lunchtime, so where they're at, there's a little side street next to them, so it's back up the side street into their drive-through, down to the Boise, all the way to Fashion Square Boulevard. So,
I find somewhere else to eat that day.
but it is, like, places like that, like when they first opened, they will always have those types of issues. I believe this is based off of like a long-term steady state, like what would be reasonable at a steady state.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
if
that's
we
my only
wanted
question
to,
on this part, is just to understand it, how do we know we're getting enough spaces for that kind of a purpose?
so yeah, I mean, so for something like this, the suggestion, if we wanted to change it, I would contact an engineer that deals with drive-through design for restaurants and all that kind of stuff to update it long-term. I think this is sufficient for what we've got now, but if we were to have someplace like that come in, it would probably be worthwhile to contact an engineer.
Okay, I don't wanna pull this up, I just wanted to question it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you transitioned, because I was fixing a mechanical pencil broke thing, or lit. Are you on to 58 then now, or are you still at
We're
57?
still on 57, I was just about to move on to 58. Alright, so if there's nothing else on 57, go to 58. Industrial solar energy collectors.
I've got a question on number 1 and number 3. What's the difference between a lot line and a property line?
Right, because before we were talking about it, we said that we needed clarity on it.
So that's what my note here means, per Sam at 4/23/26 meeting, question mark on 1 and 3, but I didn't know what the question was. I didn't write down.
I think for one, it's supposed to be instead of parcel lines, it should be site lines, so like where it's actually being developed. Like where they are saying like this part of it will be developed. I think that's based on the way that it reads. that's the way I interpreted it, so it might just need to be a wording change. So it should be the sight lines of the parcel of the property upon shall be constructed at least 200 feet from any property line. So, so like I guess the only thing that I have to compare it to is like the weed facilities where they put up a fence. So from that fence is like your developed site area. They would then need that fence line to be 200 feet from the lot line.
Okay.
Is the way that I read that, and it just might be a wording
So
issue.
building site.
The actual developed site, yes. So like you would have like, this is the battery line of the solar collector cells area. From this line to the property line is a 200-foot buffer zone. Well, 200 feet from the property line. This is the way that I read that. Now, that said, long ago while we were doing this, Troy also gave us samples of industrial solar collector zoning ordinances that the attorney had given us or had forwarded, because remember when we were going over this, there was that major change at the state level of like where the state was basically forcing communities to have wind and solar, and the rules had changed, and there was a question as to how much zoning you could actually do for those. What is in here was the Rose interpretation of what was legal at the time when that law changed. So, and we haven't gotten to this, and we haven't looked at that ordinance, and I know Troy said that the attorney had some suggestions, and I don't know if this was one of the ones where he had suggestions to make changes to.
Yeah, Troy told me the last time I talked to him, which I don't think was at that Tuesday meeting, but
Yeah.
the attorney has a whole list.
Right. I mean, so for this, I mean, for right now, we can make a note that it should be from the developed.
Both.
Developed
And then
site.
why is 150 feet instead of 200 feet, or why is 200 feet instead of 150 feet? Shouldn't they
Industrial
be
solar
similar?
collector systems must be located
I mean, what's the difference between the two? They're both,
lot line of parcel. Yeah, that is confusing. I don't know.
so I think the whole thing needs to be looked at, possibly fixed or typed correctly.
Yeah, it's almost like if you interpret it the way that I interpreted the first one, it's almost like your site, where you're going to develop at must be 200 feet from the property line, and then you must be an additional 150 feet inside of that.
Okay, and if that's the case, it needs to just be explained better.
Right. But that might not be the case.
Right. So we need
And-
clarification.
And there might be a problem with that, because part of the reason the state changed the solar and wind requirements was because of zoning ordinances like our old windmill one, where it was all like, well, you can do it, but it's been restricted so much that it's almost impossible to find any piece of property that would meet the requirements. And I think this might have a very similar problem to that. But like I said, and I just found those the other day. For the next meeting, I will make sure that everybody gets a renewed copy of it, of what the attorney sent Troy for a potential replacement for this.
Just on number 5 also, I mean, it's something, I just wonder why it's there. It says, an evergreen tree must be 4 foot tall when planted and reach the height of 10 foot tall within 3 growing seasons. Well, I mean, you put them in at 4 foot, and if they don't reach 10 foot, I mean, I did everything I could.
Yeah, I mean, some of that is just getting the right type of evergreen tree. I mean, there are fast growing species. I mean, there's hedgerow specific evergreens that I know they tell you, like, once it's started to mature, it will grow like wildfire unless you keep it trimmed, so. And that probably comes back to, later in here, there's landscaping and it tells you like acceptable plants and all that, that might be, explained in there. But I think with the 4 feet, I don't know if you've been past any of those solar collector sites, I mean, 4 foot is gonna cover a good chunk of that height unless they're, face fully towards the east.
I planted 35 out in front of my place, it's been 3 years now, and they're just finally now getting to about 5 foot.
Right.
Well, the funny thing is here, it says they must reach 10 feet within 3 growing seasons.
Right.
I'm not a professional plant person, but every time I plant a tree, it doesn't do any growing for the first 2 years at all.
But,
It's just root.
but again, that comes
The
down,
second year, you might see a little growth.
it depends on the species of
Right.
tree, because there are specific evergreens that you buy to like grow rapidly, and that's why they're saying, that's probably why they're indicating 4 feet, because at 4 feet, it's most of the way through its, like, that initial maturity point, where you don't see a whole lot of growth.
First 2 years of it is more root growth than,
And that's what I meant, every time I
Yeah.
transplant a tree, it might be growing like crazy right now.
Right.
As soon as I transplant it, it doesn't seem to grow for 2 years. If it stays alive, because I forget to water it sometimes.
But again, like, this section might change once we see that other zoning ordinance.
Right.
That the attorney at the time, when he forwarded it to us, it was like, per my understanding, this would meet the legal requirements that allow you to zone. But anything else on page 58? Other than we need some clarity and we need to confirm it against the other zoning ordinance? If not, we'll move on to page 59. First half of that is still solar energy stuff. Anything within there? Okay, surface mining. Second half of the page, anything in there? I think some of that was also, I mean, very little of it, but some of it was pulled from the existing ordinance on surface mining. And with some more robust descriptions.
For some reason, I got a big X in 4, 5, 6, and 7.
That's
Is
on,
that
that's
just-
on the next page. So, still on 59 to make sure there's nobody has anything on page 59 first.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Nine notes, so within 600 feet.
Which one are you?
property
It's all two.
Two.
No finished slopes nor slopes located within 600 feet of adjoining residence property shall at any time exceed 33 1/3%.
And 600 feet. Probably at a. What it is now, I don't know what it's gonna be, it's something
For
side for distances to residential property, it wasn't at 600 feet. It's like 25 or 50, I don't remember. It's first seen 600.
so in A, it talks about the setbacks. Areas subject to mining shall not be permitted closer than 150 feet from boundary lines of properties unless excavation is being conducted on adjoining property and the adjoining property owners consents in writing thereto, and further providing that the setback provisions contained in the zoning ordinance are compiled with as applied to the other properties and said written consent. In addition, no such excavation business shall be permitted closer than 350 feet to any properties used for residential purposes, as measured from the dwelling house or within 350 feet of any residential district. And then that last line is just like the question that we had about the rifle ranges. Well, how can you be 500 feet from a residential district if you're putting it in a residential, potentially into a residential, in our case, AFR district, so that might need some clarity. But it is 350 feet, and then it's where the slope of the pit starts would have to be an additional 250 feet from that line.
Because when we did Hagerstown, there wasn't nothing like that. I guarantee you they're digging closer than,
Well,
what are you saying?
I mean, those would be
750 feet
a
from a
legal
lot line?
non-conformance once we do this. I mean, he would continue to be able to do what he's doing, it just,
Yeah, he would,
I
but,
mean, any of them that are currently active mining pits would continue to be able to do what they're doing, it would just be new ones, and it's the finished slopes. No finished slope, I guess you define nor slopes within 600 feet of adjoining residential properties. And I don't know what that, is that a 33 1/3% grade, is that what they're talking about?
I don't know, or 33 1/3% of the property distance or something that can come. So if you had 600 feet and 600 feet, you would need 1,200 feet.
Well,
Why
I
not
think,
then
I think
150,
the question,
750?
I think the question here is it saying if it's within 600 feet, so you can dig up to 350 feet from the lot line, right? If it's a residential next to you. Is it saying within that additional 250 feet of property line, the slope of the pit, the grade can't exceed a 33 1/3% grade?
Of depth, from a depth. That makes sense as far as,
So it's not like a sheer slope, it's not a sheer drop off, it has some amount of gradual out in that first 250 feet, and then after that, it can be a straight drop off.
so like,
Capability.
well, it's when you dig a pond or anything, you gotta have one side that's been statute now for a few years, you know.
Right, but that's
From-
on the pond, what I'm
Yeah, but I'm
surface
trying
mining.
to get at that too, it's a pond, so you have a pond there that you dig to excavate your house, or to fill around the house. Now that can be what, 25 feet from the line or something?
Well,
It-
that's a personal use pond, and it's not gonna be potentially hundreds of feet deep. Or 100 foot deep, or however deep the mining pits
It's
go.
just, I just
Yeah.
see 600, alright.
The question is like, are you concerned about the 600 feet being too far, or it not being clear what that 33 1/3 is? If it's 33 1/3 is a grade, and that's all that it's talking about, is that the grade of the slope, is that what you're looking for clarity on?
No, I believe that it is, that's what they're saying on 33 1/3, but I do not know that for a fact, it is a question, but.
Okay, so.
It's saying 600 feet, that's 2 football fields that you own in your property, and you can't do nothing with it, right?
Well, no, it's not saying that it's saying you can dig within 350 feet of the lot line.
I'm just saying.
It's saying at least the next 250 feet beyond that, potentially, if this is saying that is the 33 1/3 grade,
Ratio. depth.
right, or whatever it is. It's just saying that first 250 feet from the 350 feet has to be graded out at a certain way. But I can get clarity, and maybe it's just adding wording, and maybe it's not called 33 1/3%, maybe it's called something else, maybe it's a rise to run ratio or whatever.
Or maybe they just add an explanation, like.
Right.
That's all I'm
Which
saying, I haven't
equals
seen that.
Right.
This. Move on.
Well, I mean, I want to understand, like, what is your issue with it, other than like you potentially have an additional 250 feet that you can't develop, but it's not saying that you can't develop it. It's telling you that there's certain limitations on that development.
Well, it's telling it, if you're excavating like Eggers is, he's down 55 feet. So you're saying that he can't get now within, even though he is a grandfather, which is nothing.
Legal non-conformance.
Yeah, and that's okay, but if someone else, like you said, was gonna do it, so then they go buy 40 acres, well, you take 550 feet all the way around that, they can't use that. Now, 550 feet around maybe a 40 or 60 acres, that's a lot of property that you can't use if you're gonna use it for whatever. That's what Ben always says, you know, you should be able to do what I want to on my own property, right, Ben? But,
But also, like, but there is also an understanding that, like, once the mining activities are done, that the property's not gonna be left in a unsafe state. So there is some backfill and all that, so
Yeah.
maybe establishing this helps make sure that that is met.
Yeah, I'm okay,
Okay.
I missed that.
We'll get
but-
some clarity on
I
that.
think we need to clarify, but I take it as this is talking about mining operations, not a person digging a pond for
Right.
their own fill, for their own
Well,
yard.
it's definitely not, because you got ponds, it's different.
Right,
than
that's
that.
a different thing, yeah.
But then the next question I have is, I don't understand that it blows over to the next page, it's the
Yep.
same paragraph A. And you gotta be I guess I gotta read it to make sense of it out loud again. In addition, no such excavation business shall be permitted closer than 350 feet to any properties used for residential purposes, then in parentheses, as measured from a dwelling house. Then it goes on to say, or within
Yeah.
350 feet of any residential district.
That last line
Those
is the
two
one.
things don't make sense together in my sight.
Right, that last little bit after the semicolon is the same problem that we had with the rifle ranges.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
It's
you
gotta
put in
be
a rifle
correct.
range in AFR, but it has to be 500 feet from residential districts. It's like that, you can't have both. So do you mean 500 feet from another building? Like, and it's just,
My opinion is, if it's gonna be a commercial pit that is gonna make a giant hole, I'm thinking they mean the 33 1/3 slope until you're 650 feet away. Now you can start digging
600.
your pit.
600.
600 feet,
Yeah.
so, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at it.
Yeah.
So you've gotta keep that 600 feet, you can slope it to get down to your level that you're gonna start your pit, get rid of.
Right,
If it's a gravel pit, you probably got so many feet of sand first, right, or whatever.
right, whatever it is.
So you can slope till you get there in your
Right.
600 feet range,
Yeah.
and now you can start digging.
I think that makes sense, because it stops,
I don't think you should be saying from a dwelling, you should be saying from the property line.
makes your neighbors safe from the erosion.
What if I'm 15 feet from my property
Do
line,
you
what if
think
the next neighbor's 40
600
feet or
feet
500
to
feet
football
from the
field?
property
No,
Where
no, like what he
erosion-
was just saying, if that grade is there, once you get to the end, then you can start digging.
line? Yeah, you can dig your grade
Right.
to get to the level you're gonna start your pit.
Makes more sense to me.
Your problem is that it's saying as measured from the dwelling, not,
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be, because if it's a residential district, you could be 15 feet from your property line, but your next door neighbor on the next property could be 150 feet. It should be from the property line, not from the dwelling, when you're going up against residential.
What happens if the dwelling's like on the other side of the property? Say they own 50 acres, they're way on the west side, and this guy wants to dig on the east side of their property, and there's a quarter mile of distance between them from the dwelling.
That's why it should be the same number of feet from the property line, always, not from the dwelling.
if it's from the property line, that gives, like,
Yeah.
in your example, if the people are on the west side of the property and the excavation's happening on the east side of the property, now there's a bunch of land in between, if they wanna develop it or split it and somebody else wants to develop it, that it puts the pit, puts the structure, which is being built after, I understand that, like, you know
But
that
if
you're
it's
building
residential
next.
land, I should be able to do what I legally can do in residential land. I shouldn't be restricted by my neighbor's land.
No,
Now, when
no, what
I
I'm
come into
saying.
commercial, I'm restricted because I'm coming against residential.
No, what I'm saying is like here, so if you're saying it's 350 feet from the dwelling, right? So you're saying, okay, you still can't dig onto their property, so, but you could start your dig right on your property line. when another house comes in, or the property gets split and another house comes in, and they are now within that they're closer than 350 feet to the edge of the pit, you're basically allowing potentially in the future for an unsafe thing to happen, right? Because there's no way for them to barricade or whatever, because the pit's right on the property line. You're saying make it the property line 350 feet. It's always then, in theory, going to be a safe distance away from the residential buildings.
Hypothetically, but then it conflicts with the 600 feet. I don't understand that again.
300.
If they gotta go 600-foot slope,
It's 250 foot slope. It's 600 feet from the line.
no finished slopes nor slopes located within 600 feet of an adjoining residential property or residential zone shall at any time exceed 33 1/3%.
Right. You have to,
You
you have to
can't
start,
dig
you
your
have to be,
pit
you have to be
600
350 feet away. So then the next 200 feet, that part of the slope has to be the 33. Because that
So you're
puts,
saying this could be up or down for the 350 feet, and then 250 feet.
an additional 200, because that puts you at 600 feet. No slope within 600 feet.
Okay,
So it's an additional 250 foot.
okay. So that doesn't conflict with this. You can't start digging the 33 1/3 till you're 350 feet from
Correct.
the confusing words of either the dwelling or the property, depending.
It should
on
be the
your-
property line, because it's, I mean,
Yeah.
everything else is from the property line. We establish
I
from
thought
the
they could
property
still
line.
do the 33 1/3 all the way up closer to the property line.
Well, but they wouldn't be able to then,
They have a runoff.
you
That's
can't,
not digging the pit, that's just grading your lane. Why can't I grade?
well,
my
grading,
Maybe I wanna grade it 33 1/3% or 33%.
I mean,
Then you
that's,
have a runoff going onto these people's property.
No, it'd be running away from your
Run
property.
away from the property.
It'd be keeping my water from running your way.
Yep, for sure. It'd have to run uphill, the water'd have to be deeper than the 33 and 1.
but then what you're
30%
but then what you're talking about is the difference between active mining and versus
That
like
should be
grading
600
it.
feet, like it says,
Right,
from a residential property. And any land in that 600 feet should not be more than a 33 1/3 slope from the property line.
and that's a
to
hell of a
the rear
slope,
neighbor.
isn't it?
I don't know, I can't envision it, that's why I need the other.
I mean,
I need the explanation that's 1 to 3 or whatever, so I know what we're talking about.
I mean,
Which
30,
I think is 1 to 3, right? Wouldn't that
30,
be
33 degrees is a pretty steep slope.
That'd be 1 to 3, right? Wouldn't it, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, 3
1
inches,
to 3 would be,
3.3 inches a drop for every 12 inches a run, yeah. So you'd have basically about that much drop for about that much distance. I guess that's not that
that's not that drastic.
drastic, yeah.
And it's certainly better than letting them allow it to be like this, and now the water does run.
Well, I mean, they shouldn't be putting anything within that 350 foot. If it's already existing where it's already looks like that and
Yeah,
the water
it would still
naturally
be
is going
there.
that way,
Right.
yeah.
Well, anyway, we definitely need some clarification on that, because it doesn't make sense.
Well, so,
The two different words.
well, I mean, for me, I would just get rid of after the
part in
semicolon.
parentheses.
I'd get rid of the part after the semicolon and say, as measured from the lot line.
So change the part in parentheses, and then remove the,
Yeah, remove everything after the semicolon.
yeah,
And then in the parentheses, instead of saying dwelling house, you say as measured from the lot line. 350 feet as measured from the lot line.
that makes more sense.
Because that is consistent with basically everything else we do. Other than, we do say like, well, if you're developing a site plan, you have to show any buildings within 100 feet of within 100 feet of the lot line. So is everybody in agreement of removing after the semicolon and changing it to from the lot line? Okay.
So now it'll read, I'm gonna start at the beginning of the same sentence, next page, back page. In addition, no excavation business shall be permitted closer than 350 feet to any properties used for residential purposes. as measured from the lot line.
Correct. That's, and period.
But then I still have the confusion of the 350 and 600.
See, I don't think that's 600 feet either, that's what's getting me.
That's a different sentence, but it's in
I
the
know,
same paragraph.
that's
right?
what's getting me confused, is the 350, 600, but.
I mean, if they're only talking the digging of the actual pit, then it already has to be less than 600, I mean, it has to be more than 600 feet, because they're not gonna dig 33 1/3. If they're digging a pit, they're gonna dig.
Right. But what this is saying is that, again, the way that I am reading this is that if you got your lot line here, and you say this is your edge of my phone is your 600 feet, right? Where my keys are is where you can start digging. That's 350 feet. There's not, I mean, well, actually, it'd be like more, that'd be like there, right? So here's your 350 feet. To this is an additional 250 feet.
Now that's your 600.
This is your
total.
600 total. This part here can't be any more than 33 1/3 grade.
Yep, that's your 33 1/3.
Only this part here. Now, this you could level out or whatever.
So I could level that, or I could make that 33 1/3 if I chose to.
Potentially, yes. But you couldn't actively mine there.
Sure.
Yeah, you could level it out, you could
Put that in
landscape
any
it.
grade I want, not running water on my neighbor.
Right,
I can't make it go uphill if
Right.
it wasn't already uphill.
whatever, yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean, you also gotta be careful, like,
Because
once
it's
you start
something-
grading this out, like, at what point does it become active? Does it become mining? Because, like,
Well, as long as I'm keeping
Yeah.
it 33 1/3, it seems to me like it's not mining, it's grading.
potentially,
For the
but,
description
but if you're able to use the stuff that you're
Still
taking
sell
out,
that
yeah.
sand or use it
Yeah,
over there
yeah.
where there's a low spot.
Right. That would be the problem, is what do you consider, at what point do you consider it
Okay.
the actual excavation, right? But yeah, that's how I read that, is like, there's this 250-foot buffer, basically, that's saying, like, once you get to the edge of this, the edge of my phone, basically, from here, down, it could be straight down, if that's what you want to do. But this part here has to be graded out nicely, which allows you to potentially utilize that as a, you know, in the future for something. Okay, any other questions on, so as we're going through page 60, because it's all kind of running together? If there's not anything on page 60, then we'll move to 61, which is the last of the surface mining. And that line is literally just saying, so if Eggers wanted to dig a new pit, that the new pit would have to meet all the requirements. The current pits would be okay, but any new pit they started to dig would have to meet the new zoning requirements. Okay, anything on that? If not, then we'll move on to page 62. The parking and loading requirements. Any questions on this page?
That's what I was saying, I think this, from here on, we already discussed with Roe when he was coming here once a month and made changes before he printed this. 'cause
Right,
I remember
well,
a lot of it.
Yeah, if there's anything that got missed, or
Yeah.
if something now that we know how all the other stuff interacts, is there anything that, like, hey, this now doesn't make sense the way that we approached it? That's what we're trying to figure out.
I have a question.
Yep. On which,
On the two parts, there's 2 or more buildings, no?
so, part H,
Hey,
okay.
so if you have, say you have your house here, and you got 10 or 15 acres, what do you got? And you wanna have your 2 kids have a house here and here behind you. I was always under the impression as long as it was not more than 2 houses, they did not have to have a private road with a cul-de-sac and stuff on it. Am I wrong? I thought the cul-de-sac and the 66-foot right-of-ways only came after the third
Well, so
dwelling on
be
drive.
careful, this is like referring to something more like ShopRite, Rite Aid. Like, and if another business went in there, so let's say it was Rite Aid, you know, a little smoke shop, and then ShopRite. It's basically saying they can you for the purposes of your parking, you can use the combined parking lot out front to figure out how much parking as opposed to this use has to have this many parking spots, this use has to have this many parking spots, this use, so your parking lot isn't, you know, 20 times the size it needs to
I
be.
understand that for commercial. I was talking strictly a resident. And
But that would be part of what would be hopefully eventually outlined in the updated private drive.
what do we have now on this? Because Troy's telling people, we have a gentleman that wants to do exactly what I said. Troy's telling him he's gotta put in 75-foot radiuses, he's gotta have 60-foot, 6-foot wide drives and everything. And there's
It
only
depends on however the current zoning ordinance is written.
All I'm trying to say is I thought that this, I didn't think this was strictly commercial. That's why.
I don't think
When it says driveways and non-residential zoning, now does that mean, what happens if it is residential? That's all, that was my question, because I'm just trying to figure this out.
so hold on, so H specifically says 2 or more buildings that or uses may collectively provide the required off-street parking, in which case the required number of parking spaces shall not be less than the sum of the requirements. This doesn't have anything to do necessarily with
This is a business like that, when you list it like that, that's a business, so I don't have a problem with that.
right. But what you're talking about would fall under the private or the
It's a
easement.
private road, it's
Well,
really not a road,
there's-
it's an easement.
And that's the thing that Troy's been working on with the attorney, is establishing the rules and zoning and all that for the difference between an easement, a shared driveway,
There you go.
when does it become a private drive, and when does it become a private road.
And I always thought it was upon the third structure.
I mean, so if you go by what the state defines, it can be a shared easement when it's just 2. Then once you were right, once it becomes the third building, then that's when you have to do all the development and at least that's what the state would say it should be required.
Okay, but say this is a 10-acre parcel. Say this is a 10-acre parcel.
Yeah.
Now, he's got his house here, 2 kids wanna go here. He's splitting the property, there'll be 5 acres on each side. He has his driveway to his house, the 2 kids wanna put a house back here. He shouldn't have to put in 75-foot cul-de-sacs and 66-foot ditches for that driveway because it's
Again.
only 2 people there.
Again, I don't have what our ordinance say in front of us right now, but it might be that whatever the ordinance currently says, that's what the ordinance is requiring. And that's why Troy is working with the attorney to address that, because even the attorney says what we have now for private drive stuff doesn't really meet the requirements. So that is a separate conversation compared to
All I was
this.
saying is I
Yeah.
didn't think this was,
This
the
is,
way this is definitely commercial
Yeah.
when you're going here. And I just, as I read when it says driveways, I'm.
but where do you, but that one isn't the driveway, that's overlapping and parking spaces specifically. That one, the one that you pointed out.
Oh, E says driveways.
But C does, so C says required off-street parking spaces shall consist of parking strip, or parking bay, driveways, like, that's just defining what off-street parking is.
And
Not
for
necessarily, yeah.
For a commercial, I agree with that, that's okay, just.
Okay. So any other thing on 62 then? Okay, if not, we'll go on to 63. issues on 63 anybody wants to call out? Oh, wait, I do see one issue that I missed. For single and two-family dwellings, it shall be prohibited to park on the grass or any other surface that is not established for parking. We originally told him to remove that because,
Yeah, they got that Bassett.
yeah. But what's the other part though? Single and two-family dwellings are permitted to have tandem parking or shared driveways. So really, it's just the first line there. Single-family and two-family dwellings, it shall be prohibited to park on the grass surface that is not established parking. That should have been removed. That we did discuss because we've got it all over, because you might have multiple people driving and you don't have enough room to park. That one I do remember. So it should just be in L. Single and two-family dwellings are permitted to have tandem parking or shared driveways.
So it's okay to park on the lawn, huh? If you got
When we
7
talk,
people living in a house and the
I should be able
driveway's
to
not
do what I
big
want
enough.
with my yard.
It's like-
when we discussed
I don't even have to
this,
say it anymore, Bob, I got you guys trained well,
when
I'm
we
saying.
when we discussed this, when Roe brought this up, we said we've already got people doing this. It doesn't make sense. And one of the other examples that we used was like, well, what if you're having a party there? Like, if you're having an open house, not everybody has enough room to park in their driveway. You're gonna have
That
to
is
be
an
able to.
exception, that's not.
But it does not.
every
But that
day.
does not say that this is an exception.
I'll
It's
tell
just
you.
saying you shall not park on the grass. Period.
My
You
sister,
could put the
then they
word
parked
exception
on
in.
their front yard, that way they could get to the handicap ramp to get up to the house. If they parked in the driveway, he'd have 7 or 8 steps to go up and he can't do it, so they park in the front yard where the ramp comes down. And if that was what you're saying that it wouldn't be able to, it would be against it, and he'd never be able to get in the house, or never be able to get out.
I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm just saying.
We just, that was one line we told him to remove, and it is still in here. That one I do recall, we explicitly were like, no, that doesn't make sense. But the second part of that does need to remain. So the first sentence gets removed, the second part stays, that they can have tandem parking and shared driveways.
Agreed.
Anything else on this one? Okay, page 64. If there's nothing on 64, we'll move on to page 65.
On D, that one, that it's illegal to back into the road. So if you're parking on the lawn, you
I mean,
can't back
that's,
off onto the road, right?
right, I mean, you're not supposed to back out of your driveway now,
You're
is
not
it?
supposed to, but
I mean, I think that's.
Which one are you on?
it is a state
It's on
law.
page 64.
That is a state law, but I've seen people, I had somebody
Oh,
just
that's
stand
a-
here and back straight out in front of me.
That's actually a police enforcement thing. Like, if the
Yeah,
police are
well,
driving
they
around
gotta be
seeing
there.
it, they should be enforcing it.
Yeah, well, they can't do everything that's happening in this township, I can tell you that.
Well, it already says it's prohibited,
So,
Is that what you're reading or what?
Yeah.
It says it's prohibited.
And it's a
It
state,
is,
and
that's
it's a,
prohibited.
yeah,
I'm
and it's a
just
state
saying.
law that it is also prohibited
Yep.
for you to back out. I think it's actually on main roadways, not, but I could be wrong. I thought it was just like major state thoroughfares that you couldn't back out on, but I could be wrong. Could
That's
also
the
be
way it's
county.
gotta be, because some of these subdivisions up there, the driveway's only 50 foot long, you're not gonna have a place to turn around to get out of, so if it's a main thoroughfare, I can see that in subdivisions, they have to be able to back out.
I mean, a lot of the subdivisions, they also put that spot off to the side of the garage where you can back out of the garage, pull in, and then turn around.
But they're usually on private roads, so. most of the time.
Yeah, they're owned by the.
It's by the subdivision, by the association, so, whatever.
Alright, so 64, nothing, 65, anything on 65? And the only thing I could see there is on F is I think that's covered by the green belt for, hold on, yeah. It's just the having off-street parking area abutting or adjacent to residential district use, it has to have an obscuring wall. All land between the required obscuring wall and the front property line of the street right of way shall be free from refuse debris and shall be landscaped with deciduous shrubs. The ground area shall be planted to be kept neat. The only thing there that I would maybe try to fit in is if you're keeping it landscaped, that it also can't impede vision. Yeah.
Yep.
Can't impede vision. Right? Does everybody agree with that? There should be a line in there that the landscaping can't impede vision between the front property line and the street right away. Okay, so
You're fitting that in where?
I have to figure out how that fits in there, but so like all land between the required obscuring wall and front property line. Actually, that might also have to, because that almost makes it seem like it's on the right-of-way side. The right-of-way side coming off the road, there shouldn't be an obscuring wall there, it should just be landscaping. And the landscaping can't impede vision. But either side, yeah, all land between the required obscuring wall and the front property line or street right-of-way line shall be kept free from refuse debris and shall be landscaped with deciduous shrubs, evergreen materials, and or ornamental trees. The ground shall be planted and kept in lawn. All such landscaping and planting shall be maintained in a healthy growing condition, neat and orderly in appearance. For further landscaping requirements, see 7.24. But, I mean, the obscuring wall for the parking doesn't make sense in the front property line or street right of way. It should just be landscaping, because for the parking, who cares if you're seeing people park in front of the business? Like,
That's right, part of that right there.
yeah, so all land between the front property line and street right of way line shall be kept free. Yeah. That might actually, that whole thing might need to move, because it's part of the sub for an obscuring wall. Planning Commission, upon application by the property owner of the street, may waive or modify. That's what it is. Okay. So we can keep the wording required obscuring wall, because the line 2 is the Planning Commission, upon application of the property owner of the off-street parking area, may waive or modify the wall requirement by approving either an earth berm or an evergreen screen in its place. But then that would get back to the can't impede vision, because we can waive it if there's sufficient landscaping, which it's already calling for landscaping, so it's kind of it's almost self-redundant, but we do need to put in can't impede vision in there. So the ground shall be maintained, planted, kept in lawn. All such landscaping and planting shall be maintained. Appearance, so after appearance it should be shall not shall not impede, vision, to roadway, or some wording in that variation. I'll come up with better wording, but the intent there, that everybody agrees with, shall not impede vision to roadway. Okay.
Which then brings you to number 8, the letter H. I don't understand, I mean, I kind of get it, but the 10 feet part of it. In all cases where a wall extends to an alley, which is a means of ingress and egress to an off-street park area, it shall be permissible to end the wall not more than 10 feet from such alley line in order to permit a wider means of access to the parking area. I guess I can't picture that. Why would you say 10 feet? Why couldn't it be more if it needed to be? Since I can't see that in my head right now.
The only thing I can think of, and I can't, and now my memory might be a little bit fuzzy on this, but ShopRite used, I think you used to be able to go around the right hand side to get around behind. But like, let's use that as an example. So you got ShopRite, and on the very far right end,
So you'd have to build a wall in this hypothetical.
here, so you'd have a wall along by the neighbors, and then
But
you'd
it
have
stop
it
10 feet from where?
basically 10 feet from that drive, I guess. So it would have to be 10 feet from the drive. So you have the drive plus potentially 10 feet.
You're talking about internally in the parking lot, not where it meets
Or it's
through alley, for example.
right. I mean, there's not a real great example here where there's an alleyway, but it would be.
It might almost be irrelevant for that reason.
Well, it's either there or it's a fire zone.
Well,
Vehicles.
I guess so. Like uptown, right, where you've got a couple of alleyways. In theory, if they were wide enough to get a vehicle down them, right, and the only place to park was out in the back, that would be your ingress and egress, and they're just telling you like.
So they'd be able to stop 10 feet from the curb, which
I-
the buildings in that case,
Well-
10 feet makes no difference. But
No, the obscuring wall would. Yeah. I mean, the wording is not great, but like.
I guess this
You would
probably
have-
doesn't pertain to us very much.
Yeah.
If something ever builds,
I mean, if we ever get to a point where somebody builds right out in the front of the property line and then they put an alleyway in between the two buildings, then we will have to absolutely figure out what that wording means. But I think that is essentially like, if ShopRite was out to the front side of their parking lot and Rite Aid wasn't attached, there was your drive to come in was in between them. Right now, it's saying on the front side, you're supposed to have an obscuring wall. That wall can end no more than 10 feet away from that drive to be able to allow the turn. So like if a semi had to come in there, you have a wider
That's right.
berth before.
that's where I thought 10
Yeah.
feet's not very much.
Well, but it's from the alleyway. So like you'd have the width of the alleyway.
All the examples we're coming up with are in the middle of an open area, though, so it doesn't really
Right.
matter.
Yeah,
If it is something that's gonna obstruct a semi-truck,
right.
10 feet's not a lot of space. They might need to be 15, or I don't know what number.
Well, yeah, but you're not taking into account that you can come out further and you have the width of the alleyway. It depends on how big the alleyway is. If the alleyway is big enough to get a semi down it, it's already a wide area, right?
Those alleyways in town, car does fit down. Our road and carry shirt, we shot both of them at about 20 miles an hour.
Fit down it reasonably. I mean, I think, yeah, here there is not much of a challenge, but like, if it's in here in the future, if something like that comes up, at least it's there.
Yeah.
I don't think like you said, I don't think it impacts anything right now.
So my next question then jumps to the next section, same page though. So if you're done with that, I'll go on. If not, I won't.
I mean, has anybody else got anything in that section?
On 55,
On 65?
65.
or 65, no, not.
So in section 6.3D,
Okay,
it's allowing for somebody, but I don't like the 72 hours. I mean, if you're allowed to park there Now you take a week's vacation, you can't park your truck for a week. I don't understand the 72 hours.
Excessive 24.
As long as it's allowed, then why isn't it allowed?
All semi-trucks and tractor trailers shall have maximum of one in a residential district, not pose threat to public safety.
So you already gotta meet all those other requirements, you gotta be off the road, you gotta be out of clear vision. Why can't you park for a week while you're on vacation with your family or something?
Vacation's one thing, but otherwise what happens? We're not gonna, don't have a driver, and you're just gonna leave it set there for 6 months. That's what
Well,
I
then
think.
maybe you need something
needs
different
there.
between
It's broke
72
down.
hours and 6 months then, right?
Waiting for parts or something.
Well, I
That's
think,
another
I
example,
think
where you
here,
break down and
though-
you're repairing it, and it takes a week to get the part.
but you're also talking about potentially because if it's broke down,
We're not talking about a commercial parking lot now in this case.
we're not talking about a place dedicated to commercial parking.
You're talking residential, it's got some.
Well, no, because that is already accounted for, like, you'd have a maximum of one in a residential district, so you can park your commercial truck on your property. It's not saying that,
But it's
this
saying you can't park it
is-
for more than 72
That's
hours.
what Ben's saying, can't park them more than 72 hours. You could be in a hospital for.
So you be an
90
over-the-road
days.
truck driver, you're taking a week's vacation with your families, the
Yep.
truck's gonna sit there, now you'd be in violation of the ordinance, but you're out of town, so you don't know.
I remember
Well, hold on,
talking about this, because we said corner lots are even, different in that area.
I mean, that gets, I think on a resident, well, yeah, I mean, because on a resident, you're getting also into a point of like, how do you prove that it's actually been there for 72
I
hours?
was just gonna say, Troy's already saying you don't have time, or need a camera
Well,
and this and all that.
No, it becomes a matter of how do you prove that it's been there for, just like the,
Why do we wanna set up a problem where somebody's gonna argue about whether they can prove it or not, though?
Yeah.
I'm using my example, you're an over-the-road truck driver.
I mean, then that's,
It's a straight truck, it doesn't have to be a monster semi-truck.
Well, I mean, it's over
Any commercial truck over
24,000.
whatever pound.
yeah, 26 foot
And
box
it
truck.
also says, and requiring a commercial plate, so now you'd be having somebody arguing, and it includes all semi-truck tractors and trailers. So you're allowed to park one there, but you're not allowed to park there like, cause you're going on vacation. And that's where you park every Thursday,
Are we
Friday,
talking,
is your day off.
are we talking a commercial parking lot or on your private property?
This is residential it's talking
It's
about.
residential.
Well,
Commercial vehicle parking, overnight parking of commercial vehicles in excess of 24,000 pounds and requiring commercial plates shall include
but that is a
maximum
general
of
requirement.
one in a residential district.
Yeah, the first part is general requirements for anything. And then it's saying in a residential district specifically, you can only park one. So like
Okay.
on your private property, you can only
So now,
park
if
one.
you're saying in a commercial parking lot, then why the heck can't you park more than 72 hours if that's what it's for?
But that is, but you're
I
talking
assume this
about,
whole
you're
thing's
talking
about
you're talking about the difference between, I believe what this is trying to cover, and I could be wrong, and it could need clarity. This is talking about like, somebody parks a semi-truck at ShopRite in the Rite Aid half because nobody's using the Rite Aid side of the parking lot. So they park it there and it's just parked there for more than 72 hours.
So if they have an agreement with the owner of the property, why not? It's commercial parking lot.
So,
For commercial
but you
use.
could put exemptions in there that there has to be an agreement or for residential specifically.
If not, they're already trespassing and the owner of the property will have their vehicle towed. That'll be between them anyhow.
Right.
That won't have anything to do with us. Why would I care? Now, I'll use ShopRite as my example. Why would I care if that were in the township? If somebody parked, if Bob needed to park one of his trucks there for a week, and I'm not talking about Bob, but we know, I'm talking about Bob Jones.
Yeah.
Why do I care?
I know.
I mean,
Why do I care? It's a commercial parking lot. If the owner wants to allow it to be parked, it has to meet the other orders, can't obstruct view.
right.
You can't park in that grassy area.
Well, you
Because
could-
that would obstruct view, not because you can't park in the grass.
Right. You can't park in the grass at the very edge of the
Yeah,
the
because
exit.
that would obstruct view is what I meant.
Right.
I was talking about only the property. I think D is silly and shouldn't even be in
Okay, anybody else have a
I agree.
problem with removing that?
I don't know if we should remove it, because I think it's basically talking about line of sight areas.
No, you've got, C is line of sight. He's talking specifically line D, where it's putting a time limit on how long you can park the commercial vehicle anywhere. So, for his example, if the owner of ShopRite's kid was in town and he drives a commercial truck and he was gonna be here for 2 weeks, he'd have to move the truck every 48 or every 72 hours, otherwise it'd be, if ShopRite was in the township.
We're using pretend examples here.
But, because it's the only place that's like really big enough for like a semi-tractor trailer combo type, that's why I'm using that one as an example.
Well, there's others on residential property around here. They do it all the time.
But that's gonna be the most highly visible area, and this is more for visibility.
Yeah, and I took that because it was talking about maximum of 1 in a residential district, but I see that's only bullet point A, so the rest might be talking about commercial. And if it's in commercial, what do I care, as long as you're already legal to park there? What do I care if it's 74 hours or 8, 9 hours or?
And you just don't want it there, and you don't wanna give them the opportunity to be there indefinitely, because,
But if it's a commercial parking lot, I don't care.
but you also don't want it, I mean,
If it's
we've
a
had this.
residential district, I'm going back to flip-flopping.
Yeah.
If it's a residential district, I see the argument that you might want some sort of time. I don't think 72 is fair, but I don't know what is fair. But if this is commercial, I don't see the argument, it shouldn't be there.
I mean, the only argument that I would
I mean,
make is,
hypothetically, now I will pick on a certain excavator we know. That would hypothetically mean he can't have one of his own trucks parked on his own property that's for that purpose. And the new one that's trying to build out on 38, they wouldn't be able to be there for more than 72 hours per this ordinance. And that's what the parking lot's being built for, park trucks.
I mean, so in
Another
that case,
example would be what used to be, they changed their name now, I can't remember, the old Myers.
Carrier.
It used to be Carrier before, and it was Myers before that,
Yeah.
whatever it is now.
Okay.
They wouldn't be
Hess
able
or
to park their
something.
trucks there, which is what the whole business is for.
Well, I mean, they're in and out of there. The thing
They
here
still
is,
have to have one occasionally that sits there more than 72 hours, and possibly for 2
so
or 3
then,
years.
so then to your point, then it would be a location that is not specifically designated for the parking of tractor.
Commercial parking.
Yeah.
I don't
Excludes
know.
commercial parking or parking on areas.
You already shouldn't have the right to park on somebody's property without their permission.
Well, that's, yeah.
ShopRite is privately owned, using that as an example. It's not
Right.
township owned or city owned.
I guess my point here is like using ShopRite as the example. If it was in the township, if we had approved the site plan, if we had gone through all the process and all that, we never approved them to be a commercial parking lot. Right? So you would not want something sitting
No
there.
trucks come and go from that parking lot, it's a parking.
Come and go, but not park there for an extended period of time. You didn't approve the site with with long-term parking would be the case that I'd be making here. This is, you're considering long-term parking. So like,
I would disagree with you, but if that stays in there, you don't have the option.
Right, but 72 hours.
no, I'm saying you add wording that excludes facilities specifically designed for commercial truck parking or adjacent uses. So like if excavators and all that kind of stuff, anybody that has a truck that's gross vehicle weight rating is over 2,400 pounds or 24,000 pounds applies to this. So the one that's out on the corner of Sheridan and all that, because of the nature of their business, they would potentially have trucks parked there for longer than 72 hours. That place is approved because it's inherent to the nature of the business. You make this section, it's like in areas it basically is not inherent to the business, or it's not your personal vehicle because you're an owner operator. So maximum of 1 in a residential district, maximum of 72 hours parking duration, excluding residential, personally owned vehicles, personally owned commercial vehicles, or however you want to word that. This, I believe,
You know, somebody else has got to start piping
Yeah,
in here.
because
My
I
opinion
just-
is there's no reason for this or.
Right, but if it,
Remove it completely.
of a plated or non-plated vehicle or something
well,
that
that's
is
different.
insured, I know it's different, but
Plated
I'm
is
saying
different, non-plated
this-
is different.
But the 72 hours at least guarantees you that the vehicle runs and they can move it out and bring it back instead of having a pile of junk sit there without having any recourse of.
Yeah, I would just, my argument would be is you reword it so that it's for places not, either not approved or not specifically designed for that parking. That would be my argument, is you word it so, you leave everything here, but it's specific to places not specifically approved for that type of activity by the nature of what they're doing, and excluding personal residential property where it's your vehicle, basically, is the way that I would argue to reword that. But, I mean,
That's what I would say, I would want to take it out completely, but to modify it at least, like what you're saying,
yeah.
I think it would be better.
You have to leave it in because you open a book of worms if you don't.
But reword it, but the case here would be to reword it that it's areas where you're parking commercial vehicles in places that they're not approved, basically. And you have to figure out what that wording is.
Companies, motor fleet,
Yeah, yeah, if it's a like carrier up there where like the inherent nature of the business is it's trucks in and out, or DH, was that Dave Hospec trucking out there at 15 and 81, like the nature of their business is such that they will potentially have commercial vehicles sitting there for a period of time. Penske,
right?
you know, Penske rental place, they might have trucks sitting there for a period of time, but that is the nature of their business. You reword this to be, it is specifically not places where it's inherent to the business itself, is the way that I think.
I have to see the wording to know that then, so I mean.
I will come up
My
with,
opinion is remove it, your opinion is reword it.
I will come up with
You gotta get the
some,
wording before we can argue about that, so.
I will come up with some wording for the other side of it. So for I'm just gonna call it non-approved right now, but I will come up with some wording. Okay. Off-street loading, that's, basically the same thing that we had on the previous, zoning ordinance. Anything else on page 66?
Yeah, one thing that I thought we changed was residents in township may not.
Which one, which?
Oh, on, section.
6.6.
Yeah,
Okay,
the number of trailers. I thought we changed that.
That didn't, maybe that's in here. Because this is now talking about all the table of things that we've done.
It says it may not.
And now.
no,
we're-
this is different, this is the, like,
Well,
what
we
we're in
beat this
here.
to death and talked about it before, and I wrote notes, but they're not there. So they have to be here somewhere.
well, I think it's just because it got left out on this, because this here is, so the table of use requirements tells you like, this is the use, here is your parking, here's your additional things beyond what is outlined in the rest of the zoning ordinance. The table of use requirements, so when we go back to pages 28 and 52 and all of that, the design standard, that's in addition to whatever's back in here.
Right, but if we change the wording there, it might affect here, right?
I don't think it's in here.
Well, I know we talked about it because I remember the entire conversation about, I don't understand it, it's not fair. You live there, 5 people live there, each one of them can have 2 cars.
That was
All of you combined can't have 2 trailers. Or
but that was the conversation that we had when we originally got to this, and we did change it, but I don't remember what we changed it to. I think it
So
was,
you're saying it's in one of our millions of pre-drafts in
Yeah.
that folder that's that
Yeah.
thick, no?
I believe the conversation was they had to be
Licensed and all that.
licensed and
But I
and
don't believe in
functional.
a rural township, we should say any number like that. You can have 10 cars, why can't you have 4?
But I know I got 3 trailers
Too
right
many,
now.
too much junk.
Right, but that was where the discussion went of, you could have you could have a couple of them as long as you could prove that they were functional and they were licensed, but even that, like, there's gonna be some trailers that you don't need a license for, like a little trailer that you're just using to pick up brush, like, it doesn't specifically call it out on here, it just says their own trailer. Okay, well, so if you've got like just a little trailer that you putz around the yard with to pick up yard waste, like, you're not gonna license and title that trailer, so like, you can't really go based purely on the licensing. I think is where we got
I'll
to,
use
was
myself as
function.
an example. I have multiple trailers. I have 2 that aren't licensed, that have flat tires, that hold air, just not very long. And both of them are used for specific purposes. When I wanna use them, I go put the air in the tires, I can move them around for 2 weeks, then the tires are too low again.
Right.
One I have firewood on, it doesn't need good tires and it doesn't need a plate, I put firewood on.
But it's
And
functional.
I roll it from way over there to over here.
But the difference is it's functional, it's not,
Perfectly functional.
yeah.
The other ones, and I have no idea how many old boat trailer, I don't even know what kind of a boat could possibly fit on it. My brother used to use it for an upside down Johnny boat that's only 10 feet long. He had to flip it upside down and put it on it, and I use that one because I put boards on it that hold implements for my garden tractors. So I have small tractor
Yeah.
equipment, I have a lot
Stuff
of
that you
pieces.
wouldn't take,
And I don't want them on the ground, so I put them on there, fill up the tires, and I can roll it anywhere I wanna roll it.
but it's not something that you would take on the road, it's,
I would be scared to death to take it
Right.
on the road.
So it's-
Only because it's
but
not designed for anything to been rebuilt. It's
Right.
not really a boat trailer anymore. It started out as a boat trailer. And all my rest of mine, good trailers, good brakes, good lights, licensed. And I don't understand why I should be restricted or anybody should be restricted.
hold on, residents.
That was coming up.
Yeah, for sure.
It's right here.
Oh, next page.
So residents of the township may not keep more than 2 of their own trailer, boat, camper, motorhome, or similar vehicles on their property for an indefinite period of time, provided such vehicles are in operable condition, are not kept within 20 feet of the closest edge of any neighboring road surface area. Such vehicles shall be subject to all applicable provisions concerning accessory buildings set forth in 11.7. So, I mean, it already in here does say that inoperable condition. So really, it's just a matter of, do we just want to say residents of the township may not, should it be
We gotta find the
reworded?
wording.
Should
We already
it
talked
be
about that.
reworded that residents of the township may not keep more than, like,
I
like
know
with the vehicles, you can't have more than one unlicensed or untitled vehicle on your property. So is it really here, it should be residents of the township shall not keep more than 2 of their own trailer, boat, campers, motorhomes, or similar vehicles on their property for an indefinite period of time that such vehicles are in an inoperable condition.
We
If-
already beat this one, we got.
I know we came up with wording, because I remember it said something about like not.
No,
things
we
like
got
that.
rid of the requirement, I remember this, we got rid of that requirement because we're like, because we use I use the example of a farmer. A farmer's allowed to have 30 different hay wagons on their property, but I can't have two.
A travel trailer, a boat trailer, and a snowmobile.
Yeah,
Right to
or
Farm Act is completely different than what a resident has on his property.
again,
I'm a
though,
resident, and I have a horse trailer, I have a car hauler, I have a wooden wagon, and they're all licensed.
There's not a problem, my license.
yeah, but right now you're saying he'd have to get rid of one of those. He'd have to store the horse trailer off of his property.
It also says 20 feet from the closest,
Roadway, it just means you can't park it out by the road.
so I can have whatever I want back on the back of my property.
No, it's just saying it can't be parked within 20 feet of the roadway. You still, the way that this is worded, you can't have more than 2 trailers, the way that this is worded. The way that this is written is it no more than 2 in operable condition may be kept on the property, and that's within 20 feet, but you cannot have more than 2, the way that it is currently worded. So realistically, it should be more like the vehicle one, where you can't have more than 1 inoperable, unlicensed vehicle on your property. It should be more like that. And whether or not the Right to Farm Act is different or not, like,
And by the
how
way,
many people do you know that own a hunting trailer and their camping trailer, and they have a snowmobile trailer for when they go up north, and they have, you know, their utility trailer for going and picking up shit? Like, people have multiple trailers. Like,
I got 5,
yeah,
they're all licensed.
okay,
This doesn't say that's allowed.
but
I'm
that's
just saying,
yeah,
mine are inside a building,
okay,
out of sight.
but that should,
But all I'm
but
saying-
the way that this is
I'm
worded.
saying I agree with
You
you.
don't
Yeah,
have
the
to.
way that this is worded, even doesn't matter if they're in a building out of sight. You can only have 2 trailers. The way that this is worded currently.
personally. Commercially, he can have as many as he wants.
But if we're using that as an example, you have 5
Well, another thing I
trailers.
didn't even notice though right now, and I just highlighted the word, this includes a motorhome. So if you have a motorhome and a boat, you can't have a snowmobile trailer.
Right. I would reword,
The motorhome is the licensed drivable vehicle, so that doesn't even make sense to me.
I
The
would
whole
read,
thing makes no sense.
my suggestion is to reword this, that it's no more than 2 inoperable / unlicensed. And then that list. No more than 2 inoperable.
So and or. So you wanna say and or.
/ inoperable / unlicensed. Well, no, because
No.
you don't want to do unlicensed, because not all the trailers are going to be, not every trailer needs to be licensed. So it's got to be inoperable. The wording's got to be no more than 2 inoperable.
Opening up something there too, though, because if he's got his utility trailer and the tire's flat, that's inoperable, but when he pumps air into it, then it's not, so.
But that's the difference. You can prove that it is functional. The intent would be like, if it's very clearly like he can't pump up the tires and move it, that would then be in violation. He could pump up the tires and be like, hey, look, I can move it, it's fine. It would be like my grandfather, when he had his 5th wheel that was out back, the floor was rotted out, the tires were buried 6 inches into the ground, the top was falling off. Like that, okay, that is now a violation. Like, you have one that's falling apart, like you intend to clear it up. It's also in violation of health and safety standards, because it's a blight at that point because of the state that it's in. But it's not gonna move, it's not functional, like that, like you can't have more than 2 of that, right?
Go with that, like the motorhome down the road.
But it's gotta be, the definition's gotta be inoperable. Because if you say unlicensed, it doesn't allow for the small, like, yard waste trailers. Is that agreeable?
Yeah.
And I'll come up with better wording and figure out how that works in there, but people are okay with that wording? It's
As
2
long as it's-
inoperable? Okay. Anything else on this then? And then, yeah, so C would have immediately said that that my grandfather's 5th wheel had to be removed. Any and all disrepair, abandoned, or blighted recreational vehicles shall be prohibited. So that would have, like, that one there would have been like, oh, you gotta get rid of that.
The one on the edge of town has been there for 3 years, still there.
That motor's got a 440 Magnum in it.
Yeah,
I know the guy that owns this stupid thing.
yeah.
Well,
Inoperable.
if it's, I don't know what the current ordinance is, that is the difference in fighting that. It's in the ordinance here that we will potentially approve. All right, page 67, general provisions. Anything on here that anybody has problems with? The only, the only thing that I think might be conflicting is we did have accessory dwelling unit, and this does say one lot, one building, but it does say one principal building, so I don't think it is conflicting, but somebody may challenge that in the future, just as a FYI. But it is one principal building, and the principal building would have to be more than 1,000, or would have, if it's a new build, it would have to be 1,000 square feet or more, based on the current zoning ordinance.
So maybe just a blurb in there needs.
Well, it says except as provided, and I think
Okay,
that is, yeah.
That's provided, yeah, except
Yeah.
as provided.
I don't think it will be an issue because of that, but just something to be aware of. Somebody may see it and then not see that. Okay, private roads, this one, we will probably have to come back to because the attorney's working on private road stuff. But was there anything specifically in this that anybody had questions on, that when the attorney comes back with his points on private roads, that we might want to consider?
I would like to see what he comes up with, because a lot of this talks about what we've been dealing with the property over there on Oak Road, as far as easements and intent and, purpose. Yeah, I mean.
Right, yeah. I mean, this is also complicated because originally, I remember we talked about this, it's all like, I don't know why we're putting private roads in the zoning when the Board of Trustees pulled the private road stuff out and put it in as general policing action. But it should be the general policing action allowing private roads and then zoning ordinance for the design standards, but that might be what the attorney comes back with. But if there was anything specifically in here that jumped out as like, I don't understand this, why was there this requirement, so that when the attorney comes back, is there something that we should specifically ask about? That was more what I was trying to get at. Like this particular one is going to most likely end up changing. It's probably going to get more robust.
So we'll wait to see what the attorney says, right?
That's, I think.
Yeah, well, like I said, and see what the attorney says, but I just want to make sure there was nothing in that section specifically that jumped out as like, hey, this doesn't make sense. So we know to look for it when the attorney gets back to us. That's what I wanted to know. Corner clearance, nobody's got anything on that. All right, then at that, we'll go to page 69. The depth to width ratio, residential occupancy in buildings other than completed dwellings. Signs is its own section now, that's why it's all marked out there, so you can ignore all that. And that takes us to page 71 if there's not anything on the top of page 69. If not, then we'll jump over to 71. This is your temporary dwellings. So this is your occupied up to 1 year, the time the permit dwelling is being constructed. Temporary dwelling does not have to comply with the single-family dwelling standards. A temporary dwelling permit may be issued if the following requirements are complied with. So anybody have anything on the temporary dwellings? If not, then on to 72, page 72. In the prohibited structures, we did remove shipping containers as a prohibited structure and to be allowed as a storage. But then it would have to meet all the, which we'll have to, I think that was.
Went to 2 in the rear or something, didn't it?
It was, I don't think it was.
Over an acre or something like that.
That I can't remember if we limited it. I think,
They did limit it to 2, but I don't remember the acreage, to be honest with you.
but I think it has to.
Where would that be? Because that's not what, in my notes here, we just did this in
Well,
June.
section 1107, which is, well, so section 1107 talks about the, your accessory buildings and all that.
Yeah, but we're not there yet. We've talked
Right,
about this
well, I'm just trying
last
to, it might be in there because it talks of, that section 1107 talks about like your outbuildings and all of that. Maybe it's in there as to like maintenance and all that.
Well, I didn't write any notes there. I wrote a note here specifically on
Wait,
612.
hold on a minute, that doesn't make sense.
We were gonna add, meaning allow, and
Such
then it
vehicles
ended
shall
up being
not-
by removing the word shipping container.
Set forth
And all
in
seven said
section
yes. 6 said yes.
711.
Oh, this was last year, not last month. That makes more sense.
Well,
June of 25.
I thought it was one per
And all
property
seven
if
said
it's
yes.
over an acre, because that way you're not having
That might
people
be in
bringing
some
in-
other definition. but-
bringing in the storages in a subdivision where you got,
I can tell you right now, it's not 1107, because 1107 is the additional powers of the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah.
So we gotta figure out where the accessory buildings part is.
It's gotta be up under the, either definitions or something up here.
Hold
If you
on.
remember, one of the changes I wanted made is to make sure you add the word "C blank" everywhere in this book. Because I know it talks about this somewhere else, and I cannot remember where.
That's signs, landscaping and walls, lighting. Fencing, marijuana.
It's gotta be in the table of use requirements, right?
Development. Non-conforming lots, uses and structures. Permanent abandonment. Amendments to the zoning, it's gotta be. Let's see, accessory. Definitions, adult entertainment, budding. Adult foster care. I'll have to find it and we'll have to come back to it, because it's definitely not the section that it says, but we did say it allowed and it had to be maintained. That I do remember. It had to be maintained the same way that a barn, a pole barn, a shed, or anything like that would have to be, is what we discussed. Is it just in the table of use standards then?
That's what I'm thinking, but I can't find the specific one yet.
It would have to.
Residential starts on 44, so would it be there?
It wouldn't be there, it'd be in the other, like, other uses, temporary buildings, temporary use, private swimming pools, private club, pond, billboards, cemetery, golf courses, accessory structures and uses,
Tell me a page.
page 49. Where accessory buildings or structures structurally attached to the main building, it shall be subject to all and conform to all zoning regulations. Accessory buildings and structures shall not be erected within the 75-foot minimum setback. If residential zoning district, accessory buildings and structures may not occupy more than 10% of the rear yard or 600 square feet, whichever is greater. In commercial and zoning, accessory buildings may be located in a rear or side yard. No detached accessory building or structure shall be located closer than 10 feet to the main building without an approved firewall, nor shall be closer than 6 foot to any lot line right away. Accessory building or structure shall be no closer than 1 foot to the rear lot line. In no instance shall an accessory structure be located within a dedicated easement. No detached structure or structure in a residential commercial district shall exceed 1 story or 15 foot in height. It is not in the design standard.
It's not there, no.
Definition use is clearly defined. Accessory use includes, but is not limited to, swimming pools, domestic or agricultural storage, home occupation storage of merchandise or goods related to the principal use or off-street parking, private solar energy collectors. It could be just in the general. Yeah. Well, just to keep moving, we'll come back to that. I will look for that. And if it's not in here, we will add wording on maintenance. So for access.
Seems like we were arguing about it because they're making houses out of it.
Yeah, but this was
And that-
specifically for storage.
Yeah.
Like it was, because yes, there is a place down in Detroit where they have made a whole like eatery place out of shipping containers. But this was specifically, we were allowing it as storage because it, instead of prohibiting it. Accessory building. Section. Alright.
Yeah, I thought it was one per area, and the concern was, well, if everybody in a small subdivision could have one, then you're gonna have, you know, it's gonna be an eyesore for everybody. So that's what we said, had to have at least 1 acre of land in order to build it.
Well, a subdivision though too, like, subdivision will potentially have its own rules because they might have an HOA that says like, well, you can't have this, you can only have a building this size, or,
Right.
you know, it can only be big enough to store like a riding lawnmower or something like that. I mean, we could say at least an acre. Cause I can't remember what, give me 1 second, yeah, cause the minimum lot size for the medium density residential is 1 acre, so that would basically mean like up there behind, Finish Line, that little subdivision like type area up in there, cause that's the medium density residential area. If every lot up there is an acre, which I don't think it is, they would all be able to have a shipping container. But it could also be a 20-foot shipping container. It's not always just a 40-foot shipping container. But I will look for that. But in terms of overall, when we get that, are we saying it's you have to have a minimum of an acre to have a shipping container? Is that what we're saying?
No, I mean,
Or
I'm
just-
finding the wording where we've already talked about it, and it wasn't that long ago, the last time.
Right.
Apparently, we talked about it in June of 25 also. June 12, 7
Right.
at that time said, remove the word shipping container from this section right here.
Right.
I thought it was like 2 acres.
Well, I think we were,
It
the
has to be
intent
somewhere
was,
else in there
the intent was,
that we
it's,
did what you're talking about.
the intent is that the shipping container can be used as if it were a storage, like your little shed or whatever, so it would fall under the same rules and regulations. I just gotta find that. Removing it from here, then it would just follow the same rules
Right.
as a storage shed.
And
I
that's
will
what we
find
had
that,
said
yeah.
here. just
I
remove that
will
word.
find that.
But somewhere else, we talked about all the stuff you guys are talking
You
about.
sound like me, bud. That damn smoke up there, working up to the last week, that smoke, God, this is the best day I've had outside. Can't breathe.
That's the one thing I had on this page.
Okay. Anything else on here? Yard sales, screening of rooftop equipment, waste receptacles?
If that's the question, do we want to end there?
That's, I'm looking at, it's 8:35, 8:40. I think that's, we've made a decent amount of progress tonight. I think that's the most pages that we've covered in a long time.
I think it's gonna go even faster, because I remember most of us talking to
Right.
when Roe was here, making changes that when he was here and
Yeah,
stuff.
because to finish this section, we've got quite a few more, and it goes through the signage and all that.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll call it on page 72, so we'll start at page 73 next time. With
I'm
that,
gonna say 72, because I didn't finish looking at that page tonight, so.
okay,
But if you say 73, that's up to you, I just might back you up.
that's fine. I mean, we'll probably end up coming back to it because of the shipping container.
Yeah, that's what I meant, we're stopping there.
Are we gonna schedule the date for the next one right now?
I mean, it's, the way we've been doing it is the second Thursday of the month. And it's, because it's a special meeting, we can call it I can actually send out the paperwork 18 hours before the meeting. So just, we keep it the second Thursday unless the
No,
next,
before.
Fourth Thursday, sorry, second Thursday is our
Second's Friday,
normal.
our fourth is.
Fourth.
At the beginning of the year, I thought, that's why I thought this was a regular schedule.
No,
We didn't do that with this
we didn't do that with this one because we thought we weren't gonna need that much time to go through it, because I was hopeful that it wasn't gonna take that much time to go through it. But it is, and we should, and if we were going to do that, we should have done it the same time we adopted our meetings for the year.
So it's gonna be the fourth Thursday?
The fourth Thursday of the month, unless for some reason, like, not the last one, but the one prior to that, we were gonna have so many people gone that it didn't make sense to have it. All right, so with that, any public comment? If not, then I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Sam to adjourn. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries, meeting is adjourned at 8:40. See, this is what I do to know where we left off then.
Yeah.
Stick my agenda.
Agenda, yeah, that's where it's at the last time.